This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Shalom Aleichem, Boker Tov, Chodesh Tov. I want to dedicate the shir for the Hatzlacha Ben Zion Ben Dosa, him and his family. Mitzvah Shalom will speak about Parashas Korach and in Yanei de Yoima. How can we not? We start with a question. When does the Kodesh Baruch Hu judge each person? Rosh Hashanah. Only on Rosh Hashanah? Every day? When every day? When exactly?
That 1 second that had that...
1 second you're referring to Gemara in Brachos Daf Zayin, the Kodesh Baruch Hu's anger. Kodesh Baruch Hu gets angry every single day for a split second. Fine. When does he judge each person? In the morning. Who told you? Rosh Hashanah. Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. Rabbi Yosi Oimer, as opposed to what we always thought, only on Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Yosi says, Adam Nidon Bechol Yom, a person is judged every single day. Shneimar, he brings a pasuk from Iyov Perek Zayin, V'tifkedenu labkarim. Every single morning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges people. But when exactly in the morning? What time? It's another Gemara. Daf Yomi, just a few days ago.
Second, third of the day?
Almost. Daf Dalet Amud Beis and Avodah Zarah. Also, Tanat V'Eliyahu, and that story that we learned from Eliyahu Novi. Tanat V'Eliyahu Rabbah, Parsha Yud Zayin. 3 first hours of the day. Kodesh Baruch Hu breaks up the day. Kodesh Baruch Hu's schedule is very, very busy, does a lot of things. He judges the world the first 3 hours of the day. By the way, it's not just an agada, it has nafkamina ledina, na halacha.
Just the world or the person?
Each person.
But you just said the world.
Dan Esa'olem, he judges the world and the people who are in it. He judges every single morning, says Rabbi Yosi. What's the nafkamina la halacha? Shulchan Aruch Chaim Siman Taf Kuf Tzadi Aleph, we learn, if a person is by himself in Rosh Hashanah, COVID-19, or he's stuck somewhere in the place, there's no minyan, and he has to daven bichidus. Do not daven musaf within the first 3 hours of the day, because that's harsh, strict judgment. It's not it's dangerous. When you come with a koyach avat sibu, you're protected. Because in Brachos Daf Ches, we learn HaKadosh Baruch Hu never rejects that tefillah of the tzibur. But when you come mano a mano, you come by yourself in front of the king, it's dangerous time. Says the Mishnah Berurah over there, he explains the reason is because of what we're quoting here. Daven after the first 3 hours of the day. Fine. Where is this all alluded in the Torah?
After 3 hours or before the 3 hours?
Do not daven the musaf in the first 3 hours of the day because it's strict judgment at that time.
Why Musaf? Why Musaf?
Shachis anyways you have to daven. Musaf can be
We don't daven
delayed.
every day though.
Shachis you have to daven as soon as you get up in the morning. That's the time. Musaf you can play with. You have enough time until the 7th hour of the day. So don't go when you're b'yichidus, when you're by yourself, the first 3 hours, because it's dangerous. Where is this alluded to in the Torah? Happens to be in our Parsha. Could be that's the reason I'm saying this. Pasuk says, "Vayidaber Hashem, vayidaber el Korach ve'el hakol adaso leimor." Listen what he says in the name of Hashem. Boker, in the morning. Ve'yoda Hashem es asher lo. In the morning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows who is to him. Ve'es HaKadosh ve'hikri ve'lav. One who gets up early in the morning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls him Kadosh. Ve'hikri ve'lav, and he gets him close to him. Ve'es asher yivchar bo. One who chooses HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the morning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu yakriv elav, he chooses him. In other words, every single morning, Anu, we have the opportunity to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we choose you over our bed. We choose you over the new client. I know it's very comfortable in the pillow and the blanket. The AC is so geschmack in the summer, in the winter it's so comfortable. Every single morning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, those who choose him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu chooses them every single morning. What was the?
Don't we sort of say it every morning? Modani, I mean, that's...
Mordechai, thank you for giving me back my soul. Whatever time you say it. That's thanking Hashem, but when do you choose to do that? At 10 a.m. or at 5:35 a.m.? When do you get up in the morning? Do you set the alarm to get up at 4:30 to start your day, or you have whatever I get up?
You say Modani.
Moedian is just thank you. But when do you choose to say this thank you? Do you choose to get up really early to be able to have the zchut to say this thank you early? Or do you say, whenever I get to it, I'll get to it, and I'll say thank you?
Say you're doing it when you say Modani.
The question is, when do you choose to wake up? Do you say, I'll get up when I get up? Or do you want to be the first one to rise, like David HaMelech, who didn't wait that the dawn will wake him up. He woke up as if the dawn.
That's the Daf Yomi we're learning.
Good.
Who says this is the Yaakov, the Boker, the Yaakov?
HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in his Torah.
So Rosh Chodesh, and people who daven Asikin, and like a day like today, you said, they daven Moshe within the first 3 hours.
First of all, in Taf Kuf Tzadi Aleph and Shulchan Aruch Chaim we learn, it's talking about Rosh Hashanah and Musaf and Yom Kippur. These are, by the way, talking about Tfilas HaYachid, when a person is without a minyan. When you're with a minyan, you have no problem davening b'tzibur within the first 3 hours, because the Kodesh Baruch Hu never rejects the tefillah of the tzibur. The only problem starts when a person goes b'yachid. Rosh Hashanah is a time of judgment. You're coming by yourself within the first 3 hours? Who do you think you are? Go after the first 3 hours, because the first hours are dangerous. What was the taina of Korach? He says to Moshe, you guys took Leviah, Korach. You said you took Leviah, you took Kehuna, you took Malchus. That's what Chazal tell us in the Medrash. Where is this in the Torah itself? Says Rabbeinu Ephraim, the words of Korach is Rav Lachem. Why are you taking everything for yourselves? Lachem, Rav Lachem, Lamed Chaf Mem, Lamed Leviah, Kaf, Kehuna, Mem, Malchus. Everything is in the Torah itself, even though it's in the words of Chazal, but it's already alluded to in the Torah. So the Medrash says Korach took 250 people from the tribe of Reuven, and he came to argue with Moshe Rabbeinu. Why exactly does he come to argue with Moshe? Says Korach like this. There's 4 brothers. Amram, the father of Moshe, Aaron and Moshe. There's Yitzhar, my father. There's Chevron and Uziel. Amram had Aaron and Moshe. Aaron is the Bechor. So it's only right that Aaron will get the Kehuna Gedela. He's the Kohen Gadol, and have no problem with Aaron HaKohen. No problem with him. Next comes Moshe, and he takes Malchus for himself. Wait a second, says Korach. How come you go to Moshe? You should go to me. I'm also a Bechor. I'm the Bechor of Yitzhar, the second brother in the family of Amram. Amram, Yitzhar, Chevron and Uziel. So Amram has Aaron as his Bechor. Yitzhar has his Bechor, who was Korach. Why are you skipping over me? Why are you going to Moshe?
Who was the first wife?
Who cares who the wife is?
Who was the first wife?
Who cares?
Wouldn't it be the
Listen to Korach's explanation, and you'll see it does make a difference. Says Korach, I don't know why you're skipping over me, and I'll explain to you why. Korach was a lamdan. He takes a Gemara Brachos, and he shows Moshe. He says, Daf Melef Amud Aleph. You familiar? Moshe says yes. So he says, I'm not so sure you're familiar. The Gemara darshans a pasuk from Parshas Ekev. Eretz chita u'seora vegefen v'te'ena v'rimon eretz zei shemen udvash. The 7 species in Eretz Yisrael. This is prioritizations in brachos. What food you should say first, a bracha over, and what second. How does it work? So the Gemara says the word eretz appears twice in this pasuk. Eretz chita u'seora vegefen v'te'ena. Eretz zei shemen udvash. Anything which is closer to the word eretz, you say the bracha over first. Which means, if you want to eat a pomegranate, you want to eat a rimon, which is the 5th food mentioned after the eretz kama, the first eretz. 5th food is rimon. And you also at the same time want to have a date. And the date is all the way at the end of the pasuk. But it's the second to the second time eretz is mentioned. What should you do first? Eat the date. Even though it's all the way at the end of the pasuk. But the closer you are to the word eretz, you get prioritization.
Afterwards. Because the Rimon is closer behind the first.
Rimon is the 5th food mentioned after the first eretz. He is the 5th child. Then comes the second eretz, and the second child is Tamar. It comes before the 5th child. Says Korach, it's the same. What if you want to eat a seorah, a barley, which is the second child? Eretz, chita, useorah. And at the same time, you also want to eat an olive, which is the first food mentioned after the second eretz. What should you eat first? Says Korach, that's my case. That's my case. Aaron is chita. first eretz is Amram. Aaron is the first child, is the first food mentioned. That's chita. He should go first. I have no issue with him. He goes before everyone. No problem. The second one is Seorah, barley. That's Moshe. But the halacha is we skip over Moshe. And if you want to eat the olive, which is the first food mentioned after the second eretz, which is my name, Korach, I am like that olive, and my father Yitzhar is like that second eretz, I come first. And Moshe says, and everybody else, what's the connection? Those are foods and brachos over foods, and we're talking about people. What are you comparing? He says, go, whoa. Have a raya. Leah and Rachel. Leah had a firstborn called Reuven. Leah is first eretz. She has a bechor called Reuven. When he sinned, and we take the bechorah, the firstborn's rights, and we remove it, we don't go to Shimon. We don't go to Moshe Rabbeinu. We skip all the way to little Yosef, because Yosef is the first one from the second eretz, from Rachel. And therefore, that's the same case as mine, says Korach, and that's why he specifically came with 250 people from the tribe of Reuven, because that is his proof, Licheoira, and that was his claim.
You could have put it and answered, it's better to be the tail of the fox than the tail of the...
Not if your name is Korach. You don't subscribe to that. You subscribe to the prioritizations in brachos. What's that? A sefer called Neftali Sva Ratzoy. That's the name of the sefer.
So what's the teretz?
There's no teretz. That was the claim of Korach. Now we'll see soon exactly how this develops. When you run for office, you have to have a nice catchphrase, slogan. What was Korach's slogan? Not to be believed, I found an old newspaper with a picture of Korach's baseball cap. Really? You're not going to believe it. Korach went around holding a baseball cap all the time. Sometimes it was in his head. MKGA, make Korach great again. That was his claim to fame.
MKGA.
Why? It's very hard to uproot the leadership of Moshe Rabbeinu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him so many compliments and accolades. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him honor. People saw the miracles that Moshe Rabbeinu performed. How exactly are you going to take the people and say, no, but I'm the real guy? So the slogan that Korach really used was, it's not about me. We're all holy. We were all there in Har Sinai. We all heard HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaking to us. We all received the Torah as one. I'm not fighting for myself, chas v'shalom. I'm fighting for you guys, for all of you. Why in the world should Moshe and his family take everything for themselves? Rabbi Yisai, it's all about you. I am fighting for you. That's how he hid his real aspirations for becoming the king himself. In Yerushalayim, about 75 years ago, there was a Rebbe, Reb Shlomke Bizvil, the Zviller Rebbe. Some people go to his kever as a segula for finding a shidduch near the Supreme Court in Yerushalayim. He was something else, very big tzaddik, very big tzaddik. People used to come to him and say, Moifsim, open miracles. He always used to address people, tzaddik. Shalom aleichem tzaddik. Tzaddik, how are you? Tzaddik, what can I do for you? Oh, tzaddik, tzaddik. Everybody's a tzaddik. Tzaddik, 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 tzaddik. One day a guy comes in and he looks, Tisha B'Feis. Oh, tzibrochen and broken. He sits down and Reb Shlomke says to him, Shalom aleichem tzaddik. How can I help you? Tzaddik, tzaddik, how are you? Tzaddik, tzaddik. The guy sits there and doesn't say anything. 5 minutes, doesn't say anything. Reb Shlomke says to him, how can I help you, tzaddik? You came here for something. What can I do for you, tzaddik? So this guy says, listen, Rebbe, the truth is I came here with what I thought was a very big problem. But I think my problem is solved. He says, what do you mean? He says, look, I have a daughter in Shidduchim. She's getting old. Nothing seems to be working. Now you keep calling me tzaddik, 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 tzaddik. I think my problem is solved. I think my daughter, the daughter of a tzaddik, should get married, we all know that you're a tzaddik, to your son, the son of a tzaddik. So if Shlomka says to him, it's true you're a tzaddik, but do me a favor, let's do this. You get married to your type of tzaddikim, and I'll get married to my type of tzaddikim. In other words, there's different levels and different types of tzaddikim. Bameh dvarim amurim. Korach started it many years ago. The problem of Korach still exists today. A guy learns one masechet, maybe two. He spends a half a year in yeshiva, and he already feels that he can pass judgment and criticism over Gedolei Yisrael. This guy said this, because he has an agenda. This guy has negia. This guy. Kol ha'ida kulam kedaishim. I also learn the same Torah that he learns. HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself to us in Har Sinai. We're all the same. That was Korach's claim. When you start to pass judgment on Gedolei Yisrael, you're basically saying, I am the same level as them. I'm a man de'amar. And that can create a new Torah. That's what Korach did. He said to Moshe, if a house is full of books, doesn't need a mezuzah. If a talis is, the whole talis is tcheles, it doesn't need the fringes, doesn't need the tzitzis itself. Creating a new Torah. I'm on the same level as you. You can create mitzvahs, I can create mitzvahs. You create a new mitzvahs, you create a new Torah, you create a new way. That is the way of Korach. It's a very, very dangerous slogan. We're all holy. Very, very dangerous. It's true. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us all, but you get married to your type of tzaddikim, and I'll get married to my type of tzaddikim. Gedolei Yisrael are on a level of their own. And one has to be extremely, extremely careful not to go down Korach's lane, Korach's path, Chalila, lest he becomes, unfortunately, Chalila, Korach's neighbor. So what was the mistake of Korach that propelled him to do this? Rashi brings, he saw Shmuel HaNavi as his offspring. So obviously I'm right. If I will have Shmuel HaNavi, I'm a good guy. So why is it that the merit of Shmuel HaNavi doesn't help his grandfather Korach? In Sanhedrin Kuf Dalet Amud Aleph, Chazal say, Bra mezaki Abba. The son is like an extension of the father, and he gives zchus to the father. So why doesn't it work the reverse? The father should be saved by the grandson, great-grandson. Why doesn't it work? Similarly, Giti Nun Zayin Amud Beis, Chazal say, Mibnei Banav Shel Haman, the descendants of Haman, sat in Bnei Brak and taught Torah. I'm not sure if it was in the Ponovich and some others, Slobodka, I'm not sure where, it doesn't say. They sat in Bnei Brak and taught Torah. So why doesn't their unbelievable zchus help to save the grandfather Haman? The Magid Medubna, as he always did, explained it with a mashal. There was a ganav, a very sophisticated and qualified ganav, who wanted to steal from the king's palace. Chutzpah. So he dug a major tunnel, something similar to the Hamas's tunnels, under the king's palace, and he was almost about to execute what he wanted to do, but unfortunately to him, he was caught. And the king was so upset with what he did, death sentence. So before he's executed, he asked the king to speak to him just a few minutes. King said, fine, last request. He says to him, look, it's true, what I did was terrible, very inappropriate, you're right. But Lemaise, because you got me, you got all the murderers and the thieves who were associated with me. So you only gained from me, so why are you killing me? I should get something for this. And the king said, the truth is, you're right. We gain a lot from grabbing you. We have a big group now in jail, a lot of guys. You're right, you should get something. But it was such a disgrace what you tried to do to me. So you know what? We're going to kill you. But we'll appoint your son to a very chashuva position. Same thing happened with Haman. Megillah Daf Yudaled Amud Aleph, we learn, he did a great service for Klal Yisrael. The Gemara says 48 prophets, male prophets, and 7 female prophets stood there and yelled and rebuked. Klal Yisrael, you got to change, got to tshuva. Nobody listens. King Achashverosh takes the ring off his finger because Haman asked him to. Oh, but he starts trembling and they all run and they do tshuva. So Lemaise Haman comes and says, excuse me, why do you want to execute me? I caused your nation to do tshuva. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, you're right. We gained a lot from you, Haman. But you know what? For what you did, we'll kill you. But your descendants will have the great zchus of sitting in Bnei Brak and teaching Torah. And the same thing happened with Korach. Korach said, listen, what I did for Klal Yisrael, I taught everybody, you don't start up with Moshe. If you do, that's it. I called Klal Yisrael to have emunas chachamim. I should be compensated. Where's my reward? And the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, you're right, Korach. You did teach us a major, major lesson. Emunas chachamim. Don't start up with a leader. But for what you did, you're going to be punished. But we'll give you the schus that one of your kids, his name is Shmuel, he will be a prophet later on. So we are rewarding you, but in an indirect way because you did a great service. But you, for what you did, you will be executed. Avos Perek Hey Mishnah Yud Zayin, we learn Kol Machloikes Shei L'Shem Shamayim Soifa Liyiskayim, it will last. And the Machloikes which is not L'Shem Shamayim, it's not going to last. The Mishnah brings an example. What is a Machloikes L'Shem Shamayim? That's a Machloikes of Hillel and Shammai. Machloikes which is not L'Shem Shamayim, Korach and his congregation. What is a Machloikes L'Shem Shamayim? The Avnei Nezer had a Talmid, Chelkas Yoav, to Gedolei Olam, and they had an argument their whole life. What if 5 minutes before Shabbos is over, you put a pot on the fire? It's not going to be cooked during Shabbos. It's only 5 minutes to go. It's going to be cooked half an hour later. How do we look at this? The Chachamim also deal with this regarding Zoreya. You plant something, it doesn't have enough time to take root on Shabbos. Do we look after the action? The Maaseh was done on Shabbos. You took a pot and you put it on the fire on Shabbos. Or do we look at the result? Lemaaseh, the item will be cooked only on Motzei Shabbos. I'm allowed to cook on Motzei Shabbos. How do we look at this? Machloikes, the Avnei Nezer, and Simik Kuf Yutes, Kuf Kaf, Kuf Raf Aleph, Kuf Raf Beis, all these simanim he deals with it. The Chelkas Yov and Simin Yud. Their whole life they argued. Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said that when the Avnei Nezer was already sick and old, he was in his deathbed, the Chelkas Yov, his Talmud, came to visit him. And the Avnei Nezer says to him, no, maybe now you can retract. Your whole life you argue with me. I'm about to leave. Maybe now you can retract. And the Chelkas Yov says, Rebbe, I retract. Avnei Nezer says, what? Because I am sick you retract? The Torah says emes. If you really believe you have the emes, just stick to it. And the Chelkas Yov says, Rebbe, I retract my retraction. I continue to argue with you. That's Machloikes, L'Shem Shamayim, Shesoifa Liyiskayim. The Machloket is still here today. Because that's L'Shem Shamayim, Shekoyach. Because the Torah is emes. And if you really hold that you own the emes, even though your Rebbe feels differently, I'm not telling you to paskin halacha against your Rebbe. But in Lomdis, if you have the rayas, you have the proofs of what you're saying, you have sources, you have to stick to it. That's a machlokes which is l'shem shamayim, ve'asida li'iskayim, soifa li'iskayim, that's a machlokes that lasts. Machlokes, what's worse? To have some machlokes, or to serve idols? Avodah zarah, the real deal, a statue, start bowing down, I have a little machlokes. What about Achav and David?
Well, they did Avodah Zarah, but they had unity, they won war.
You're sending us to a Medrash in Dvarim Rabbah, Parsha Hey, Ois Yud, the Medrash says, the generation of Achav served Avodah Zarah. Terrible. But when they would go to war, they would always win, because there was no Lashon Hara among them, they had Achdus. Generation of Shaul, the language of the Medrash in one place is, and the generation of David in another, language of different Medrash, it's basically saying the same thing. They were giants in Torah. Giants. No Avodah Zarah there. But they went to war, and not always did they win, because there were Baalei Lashon Hara among them. But what's the connection to Parshas Shavua? Chazal tell us an amazing thing. On the day that Klal Yisrael did the Egel, and that's Avodah Zarah, the man fell down. But on the day of the Machlokes with Korach, no man for Klal Yisrael, because the Kodesh Baruch Hu hates Machlokes seemingly even more than Avodah Zarah. In Shalos Teshuvos Afarkasta de Anya, Chelek Aleph, Simen Kuf Samech, he tells us a story. And this appears in a few Sfarim. We'll take a story. There was a city by the name of Kempne, and a big chazan came to town. Chazan, number one chazan in the world. The people loved him. The Rav over there, his name was Rabbi Yosef Shmuel, couldn't stand him. This guy was a Rasha Merusha, but he had a voice like no other. The tzibur loved him. They wanted him to keep him as a chazan. The Rav couldn't stand him. That guy's Mechalel Shabbos, does everything wrong. He didn't know what to do. Major machlokes. He sends a letter to Rabbi Yosef Av Beis Din de Pozna. This Rabbi Yosef is the son-in-law of the Noida Yehuda. Just to understand how great Rabbi Yosef Av Beis Din de Pozna is, the Noida Yehuda is not, doesn't give too many compliments usually. He's kind of stingy when it comes to compliments. In Shalosh Tuvos Noida Yehuda, he writes to his son-in-law, Rabbi Yosef Av Beis Din de Pozna, and he writes there, he starts the letter with, Vagoan ha'atzum, kol raz lo anislei. You know all the secrets of Torah. My hand trembles when I write to you. That he addressed a man who's, you gotta assume, is 20, 30 years younger than him. He's his son-in-law. And he's not a man who normally gives a lot of compliments. And yet, so you understand how great Rabbi Yosef Av Beis Din de Pozna is. This local rabbi sent the letter to Rabbi Yosef Av Beis Din de Pozna, and he writes him like this. The name of the chazan is Shimon. The Gemara says in 4 places in Shas that Shimon HaAmsoni used to darshan all the esim in the Torah. Whenever there's an es, the word et comes to include, to increase, to add. So he writes to him like this. Shimon zeh, this Shimon, our chazan, doiresh kol esin shebatorah. He also counts and adds all the esin, es hachazir ve'es hasheketz, and he adds behidur de'oreisa derabanon. But when it comes to es Hashem Elokecha tira, when it comes to Filo Kodesh Baruch Hu, Piresh, that's where he stands. That's where he stops, and he doesn't darshan anymore, and he doesn't add anything. Just like it's a play on words on what the Gemara says about Shimon HaAmsoni. What should we do, Rebbe? Rabbi Yosef Av Beis Din de Pozna writes to him only 6 words, which I think we have to learn by heart, and you have to carve them on your heart. Mamish unbelievable. Mutav lehamid tselem baheichal milehachazik b'machloikis. Again, mutav lehamid tselem baheichal. Better put up a statue in the sanctuary. Milehachazik b'machloikis than to hold on to a machloikis. It's not such a big pele because there's a similar Chassam Sofer in Shalosh Tuvos Chassam Sofer Or Chaim in Siman Reish Hey, and he is also asked about a chazan who caused all kinds of problems. And the Chassam Sofer writes back, look, you don't need the chazan today. You're not yoitze by the chazan. We all have sidurim. In some countries they even use our scroll sidurim if you don't know the. It's not a problem. We don't need the chazan to be moitzias. Many of the chazanim, says the Chassam Sofer, are there to show the tzibur how great their voice is. So we don't even need them. It's better not to cause a machloikes than to remove the chazan. Chassam Sofer. But why is it that it's better to put a statue in the sanctuary than to hold on to a machloikes? Where'd you get that from? Listen to a language of the Noida Yehuda. En lecha garua min ha-machloikes. There is nothing worse than machloikes. Uvizmanenu lo shachiach machloikes l'shem shamayim. We do not find today, says the Noida Yehuda, machloikes, the real good machloikes, which is l'shem shamayim. Ve'ha-satan meraked. It's the dance of Satan when we have machloikes. Ve'na me'od, he writes. Na me'od, please, please. Yaseh shalom, make peace. Ve'oiseh b'imrom of shalom, Kodesh Baruch Hu makes shalom up there, yevarech esamu Yisrael b'shalom. And more than that, Menashe was an evil king. Served Avodah Zarah. He brought Avodah Zarah to the sanctuary. Beis HaMikdash HaRishon. And it wasn't destroyed immediately. But when they started having machloikes, the time of Beis HaMikdash HaSheni, it was immediately destroyed. You see that HaKodesh Baruch Hu can't stand machloikes, even more so then he can't stand putting a statue in the sanctuary. And we said before, you quoted the Medrash in Dvarim Rabbah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allowed them to win. When the army of Achav went to war, the statues, but there's Achdus, no machloikis. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you can win, and they always won. The time of David, time of Shaul, there's machloikis, there's Lashon Hara. But there's no statues in the sanctuary. Yeah, but there's machloikis, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't stand that. You ask your local Rav, a qualified, competent poisek. You have to ask the Shelas Chacham every time.
Wait, just to clarify. So does that mean that it's better to have the chazan that is not such a great person to daven than?
Not that we're going and choosing a chazan like this. We don't put in the ad looking for a chazan who's mechal al Shabbos and does everything wrong, but he has a great voice. But if he comes and there's going to be a big machlokes, you heard Rav Av Beidin the Pozer saying, better put a statue in the sanctuary than hold on to a machlokes. Some Sefer, the same thing.
Was he Machal Shabbos for Hasidus?
I wasn't there. What he writes, this chazan darshan all the esim in the Torah, es hachazir, es hasheketz, and everything else. Es Hashem elokech hatir, afiru HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's why he doesn't go there.
Isn't he Moitzi Baruch Hu and Kaddish?
He's not moitzi. We answer Baruch Hu to his saying, but he's not moitzi us. Moitzi means I'm listening to him and saying amen.
My Yotzi, if the Chazan is...
Once there is 10 people, Shechina Sharia, the language of the Zohar. Whenever there's 10 people from Klal Yisrael, Shechina is there, and therefore you're allowed to say Kol Davar Shebekdusha. But if you're smart and you're in a place like this, just make sure to bring another guy to be the 11th, so we don't rely on this guy.
So you answer on is better.
That's a good shaila. Here he doesn't limit it and say no. So l'chayra, if you're going to have him as a chazan on a regular basis, you're going to have to probably say answers. Lemaise, the halacha is that if a chazan comes and he's a violent guy, doesn't have to be a Rasha Merusha, just violent, and he takes the Yamud and everybody doesn't want, you don't say Amen to his brachos. That's the halacha. In our parasha, the pasuk says Eretz Zavas Chalav Udvash, and the Torah calls Eretz Yisrael many times. This phrase, Zavas Chalav Udvash. Why is Eretz Yisrael called a land of milk and honey? Maybe. In the Medrash Bereishis Rabbah, Parashat Zayin Oz Daled, the Medrash says, "En Torah keToras Eretz Yisrael." There's nothing like the Torah that comes from here. When you learn here, it's on a different level. Baba Basra, Kufnum Chesamud Beis, the Gemara says, "Avira de Eretz Yisrael machkim." The air here makes one wiser. So here you have the ability to learn Torah at a much higher level. We learn in Shir Hashirim Rabbah that the Torah is called Dvash V'Chalav. The Pasuk says Dvash V'Chalav Tachas L'Shoiner, and the Medrash says, you see from here that the Torah is referred to as Dvash V'Chalav. So since it's so easy, or easier here, to gain great knowledge and understanding, wisdom and Chidushei Torah, more so than anywhere else in the world, it's a land that flows with milk and honey. Milk and honey refers to the Torah. Maybe that's why it's called Zavas Chalav Udvash. So why is it dafka compared to Chalav and Dvash, milk and honey? Milk is the foundation. That's what every baby grows on. That refers to learning be'amkus, to really understand the sugya. Dvash, the sweetness, is the sweetness one feels when he's learning. That's like the parperos lechochma, the gimatriot, the beautiful votes, the, don't want to say esoteric parts of Torah, but the main part is the chalav. The dessert is the dvash, and therefore this land is called Eretz Zavas Chalav Udvash because you can get both here on a higher level. But
if the learning Eretz Yisrael is on a high level, then surely you think that the Talmud Yerushalmi should be more significant to us than the Talmud Bavli, which actually the opposite is the case.
what a great shaila! I think we once addressed it. It's a shaila of the Chassam Sofer. If in Eretz Yisrael the level of learning is so great, so how come when there's a machlokes Bavli in Yerushalmi we paskin like the Bavli? How come there's a Daf Yomi Bavli anywhere you go? Daf Yomi Yerushalmi, it's starting to pick up now, but still not even close. How come? Yerushalmi should be easier because it's less dafim. You can do the cycle faster. What's that? That's a technical thing. You're right, but Yerushalmi is higher level.
I think the answer is, in fact, there's a big difference in the learning of Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi is more of halacha, going to that. Bavli, when you go into the amkus, they go into the detail of it.
But you can understand here things on a higher level. Some Sofer asked this. Ooh, wow. There's a Gemara in Ksubis Ayin Hey. Omar Abaye. Chad Minan. Salik Lehasam. One of us, Babylonians, when we go to Eretz Yisrael, Ketrei Minan Chashivei. We have the value of 2 Eretz Yisrael guys. Why? Shita Mekubetzis over there explains. In Bavel they used to learn with great depth. And Eretz Yisrael not so much. They didn't need it. Because the air here makes you wiser. So when a guy from Bavel comes to Eretz Yisrael with his style of learning in depth, and now he has the benefit of the air that makes him wiser, he's worth 2. That's why the Babylonian Talmud is worth so much. He came into Eretz Yisrael as Niskadesh. The Chassam Sofer writes a letter to his Talmud. Shalosh Chuvas Chassam Sofer. I'm writing to you, you are in Eretz Yisrael, and in Hashem, when my words come to Eretz Yisrael, what I'm writing to you here, it's going to have double meaning, double value, and double kedusha. That's the language of the Chassam Sofer, and I think that's what he's referring to. We have an answer. If that's the case, and Eretz Yisrael is a oof, Avira Eretz Yisrael, Machim, and everything else. Why is it? Brachos Dafei Amud Aleph Rashbi. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai says the Kodesh Baruch Hu gave a gift, a matana toiva, a good gift to Klal Yisrael. Ve'ena niknes ela b'yisuri. Kodesh Baruch Hu gives Eretz Yisrael as a gift, a good gift to Am Yisrael. But guess what? It is acquired with Yisurim. Why does it have to be this way? Your wife has a birthday. Mazel tov. You go to the store, you buy her what she always dreamt of. You wrap it up. It's so nice. Wife, come here. I got you something. And she comes close. And you punch her in the nose. Here, take this is for you. Mazel tov. What's up with that? Your kid has a bar mitzvah. So you slap him 3-4 times and say, here's a bar mitzvah gift. You're saying it's a matana toiva, not stam matana. It's not stam a gift, it's a matana toiva. So here, I'll give you some yisurim. Why? So I think once I mentioned here, the Michtav Meliyahu, Chelek Hey, page 349, which I love this Michtav Meliyahu, and I've been saying it, I think, for 20 years. But last week it started bothering me. Let's say the Michtav Meliyahu. It's gewaldig. Says the Michtav Meliyahu. Since in Baba Basakov Nun Ches Amud Beis we learned that the air here in Eretz Yisrael makes one wiser. So what happens when a guy comes, makes aliyah, he comes from I don't know where. He never understood the Toises and Yevamos, and now he does. He understands all parts of Torah, and he starts flowing with Chidushei Torah, and he looks back at his Chaverim in Chutz La'aretz, and he says, they don't understand anything. They don't understand anything. He's going to become Bal Gaiva. To balance things out, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him some Yisurim. We don't want you to be Bal Gaiva, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends Yisurim. That's the reason. Gewaldig, no? I also thought so. For 20 years. Last Shabbos I started thinking, wait a second. What does it have to do with women? It works very well for men. Women are not chayiv in Talmud Torah. They're not going to flow with Chidushei Torah. They don't care about their friends who don't have Chidushei Torah. This doesn't work. It doesn't work.
You say their husband is what it is. You see my husband. Now okay. That's a guy.
She doesn't understand the Chidushei Torah enough in order to understand that he is superior to his friends, unless he tells her how great he is. But he's not going to because he got Yisurim. I had to come up with something else. Kodesh Baruch Hu gave me an idea. I'll share it with you. Maybe it works. Last pasuk in Tehilim, Samech Beis, pasuk Yud Gimel. Lecha Hashem Chesed. Kodesh Baruch Hu, you're so. What about Chesed? Ki ata teshalem leish kema'asehu. Because you pay each person according to his deeds. What does that mean? Says the Al Shech HaKodesh right there. Says the Mitzudas right there, and many others. This refers to midah keneged midah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what a chesed you do? You pay people midah keneged midah. What's the chesed in midah keneged midah? If a HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes a person, he did something wrong, he punishes him. And he can't see the correlation between what he did and the punishment, he's not going to become better. He's just going to look at HaKadosh Baruch Hu as a revenging God. That's terrible. But when you see that your leg hurts because you understand, yesterday I wasn't running fast enough to shul. Your hand is hurting because apparently yesterday I remember the ani came and I didn't reach fast enough to my pocket. Oh, I understand, I see. Every action has a heavenly reaction, heavenly echo. And you see the midah keneged midah, you become better. Midah keneged midah comes for tikkun olam, to make this place a better place. In order for us to rectify ourselves, to become great, to polish our midos, to polish our deeds. So therefore it's a tremendous, tremendous chesed. Great. Comes a likutei moharan. Torah Kuf Peizayin, and writes a remarkable thing. You should know that the main place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays midah keneged midah is in Eretz Yisrael and not in Chutz La'aretz. which means you can live a very comfortable, padded, long life in Chutz La'aretz. Not too much Yisurim. But when you leave, you still have your whole bag of averos because you weren't propelled to action to rectify them because you had no idea what you need to fix. In Eretz Yisrael, one may have some Yisurim, but when he leaves, and it's not about Olam Hazeh, it's about Olam Haba. When he leaves, he's all good to go. He can go directly to a very, very good place, Gan Eden. No need to go into a hot place to fix anything because he fixed it when he was here. The Likutei Moharan looks at a pasuk from last week Pasha, and he says it's alluded to in the pasuk. The Meraglim come back, and what do they say about Eretz Yisrael? It's a land that eats up its inhabitants. Eretz ochelet yoshveya. Ochelet is spelled in the pasuk Aleph Chaf Lamed Taf. Rashi Tevos Ata teshalem leish kemaasehu. You pay according to each one's deeds. Pilei ploim, which means, what's the benefit and what's the tachlis and purpose and goal of having Yisurim? To atone for our sins, to awaken us to do tshuva. The Michtav Meliyahu in Chelek Aleph, page 101 says that by Yisurim you separate from the nonsense of the world, and the greater the Yisurim are, the greater you are to feel revelation of Shekhinah. And Lemaisa, the tachlis of the Yisurim comes to get us close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to have Kirvas Elokim. It comes out that the biggest chesed in the world is Midah Keneged Midah, is the Yisurim. And therefore Rashbi says HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a good gift called Eretz Yisrael through another good gift called Yisurim. That's why Eretz Yisrael is acquired through Yisurim, and that works for both men and for women. The only question you should ask, wait a second, really? Midah Keneged Midah also for Goyim? The Meraglim came, the spies came, and they came back and they reported, this is a land that eats up its inhabitants. Ochelet, Aleph, Chaf, Lamed, Taf. They saw Midah Keneged Midah. To Goyim, we thought it's like a bonus to us. I don't think so. Have a raya. Avira Deret Zol Machkim, the air that makes you wiser. Is that only for Jews or also for non-Jews? It's a bonus for those who fulfill the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, or it's a mitzius. Which means, you go into a tanner where they process hides, you don't have to buy anything, you don't have to touch anything. You're not going to be smelling very pleasant when you leave. You go into a perfume store, don't touch anything. Just spend 5 minutes, you're going to come out, delicious. It's a mitzius. Or, maybe no, it's a segula for those who make the mitzvah, who are here. Shalchuvas Afarkasta de Anya quotes Achsam Sefer from Chulin Yud Gimel Amud Beis. The Gemara says in Chulin Yud Gimel, Ovdei Avodah Zarah bechutz la'aretz. Those who worship Avodah Zarah in Chutz La'aretz, Minhag Avoseihen beyadeihen. In other words, they are on autopilot mode. They don't have any idea what they're doing. They have a clue what they're doing. They're just doing it. My father taught me. They don't know what they're doing. But Ovdei Avodah Zarah in Eretz Yisrael, oh, they understand. Why? Avira Eretz Yisrael Machkim. The air here makes you wise. It's a mitzius. Now, what are you going to do with that wisdom is up to you. It even works Avodah Zarah if you choose. You're going to be punished for it later. But you can do whatever you want with that wisdom. Choose to do whatever you want. But it's a mitzius. So anyone benefits from it, even goyim. So, l'choira, I think misvara we should say, just like the air makes you wiser here, it doesn't make a difference what you do, who you are. So to l'choira, HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays Midah Keneged Midah, because this is the place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes sure that people who walk around his palace should behave appropriately. So he sends them constant signals and alarms. Wake up, change. I want people who represent me accordingly. You're walking next to my palace. So it doesn't make a difference who you are. Now we, Baruch Hashem, have the benefit to understand a little better, on a higher level. But even a goy. And therefore it's not a pele that even back then, the spies come back and they report, yeah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays Midah Keneged Midah in this land. The only question you have to ask me is, but wait a second. When did it start that the air here makes one wiser? The Tzofnas Pa'aneach brings in Maseches Trumos that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe, listen, you're not going into the land, but if you want, you can look at it. And Moshe did. And when Moshe gazed with his pure eyes at this land, he infused it with Kedusha, with Tahara, with purity and sanctity, and with this air of wisdom that one can gain from. Wait a second, according to that, that doesn't work. Because the Meraglim came back before Moshe looked at the land. So this whole building collapses. It does if we go with the Tzofnos Paneach. But I have a Sforno. The Sforno comes before the Tzofnos Paneach, and the Sforno says the reason why this land has this air that makes you wiser, because in Zvachim Kuf Yud Gimel we learn there's an opinion that HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the time of the flood did not rain anything here. The flood was all over the world, not in Eretz Yisrael. So the whole air all over the world was contaminated because of the waters of the flood. It didn't touch Eretz Yisrael. And therefore Eretz Yisrael always had this wisdom. So it's not a pele that the Meraglim came and they saw, wow, Kodesh Baruch Hu pays Midah Keneged Midah, because just like the air makes one wiser even to Goyim, Midah Keneged Midah is also paid for Goyim. I think based on all this, it could be that's the reason that Kodesh Baruch Hu gives Eretz Yisrael to Klal Yisrael through Yisurim. But we shouldn't be afraid from the word Yisurim, afflictions. It sounds bad. Because there's another Gemara, Erchin Daf Tet Zayin, and the Gemara says, Ad Heinchan Tachlis Yisurim. How exact is the punishment? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, don't be surprised that I say HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. Rabbi Sol Salanter, you know, Bab Metzia, how does it start? How does Bab Metzia start? The first two words in Bab Metzia. Shnai Mochazin? No. Rabbi Sol Salanter opened up Bab Metzia and he started learning. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shnai Mochazin. So when you hear Chazal speak in the Gemara, it's the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chazal say, what is the tachlis of Yisurim? How exact is the punishment? You want to reach to your pocket and get 3 coins out. Oish! Only 2 coins came out and you have to reach again into your pocket and get another coin. That's also called Yisurim. You put your sweater on. Oi! I put it inside out, I got to take it off and put it back on again. It's also called Yisurim. There's more examples there. So when it says, Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I'm giving you Eretz Yisrael, but through Yisurim, it doesn't have to be a harsh thing. It can be less. And it can also be only once, and you already paid your dues and your yotzeh. Especially after what we went through this last 2 weeks, and this year and a half, I think, well, yotzeh choivas Yisurim, and Hashem, we don't have to. We filled up the quota, we don't need more Yisurim. But it could be the whole reason of Yisurim, maybe that's what it is. Pastor says, no. He says the Habata, gazing of Moshe Rabbeinu at the land, is what caused this place to be infused with Kedusha and Tahara.
What happened with the pagers and other things like this? We say just say Tamasha Dishmaya, or it's the Eretz Yisrael makes wise either those guys that plan whatever they plan.
I'm sorry, say it again?
When there are some things that happen, the pager thing and all the operations that have been, people say, wow, amazing. Is it Dishmaya, or is it the Eretz Yisrael I've made them smart to make those decisions, to do those.
Isn't that the same thing? The siyata dishmaya, to allow you to have the wisdom and the ability to execute the great plan that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put in your head. It's one. The passage says, "V'ani hine lakachti es achechem halevim." I took your brothers, the Levim, mitoch b'nei Yisrael. It sounds as if in the middle of Yisrael are the Levim. I took out lakachti mitoch b'nei Yisrael. How does it work? Look at the word Yisrael and let's see what's in the middle of Yisrael. Yud is spelled Yud, Vav, Dalid. What's in the middle of Yud? Vav. Yisrael. Shin is spelled Shin, Yud, Nun. What's in the middle of Shin? Yud. Reish is Reish, Yud, Shin. What's in the middle of Reish? Yud. Aleph, Lamed, Fei. What's in the middle of the Aleph? Lamed. In Lamed is spelled Lamed Mem Dalet. What's in the middle? Mem. What are the letters in the middle? Mitoch Bnei Yisrael, in the middle of Yisrael. Levim. The passage says, I took them from within you, from the middle of you. In the middle you find this remez. Mordechai Truk Zatzal was once going to a chasana. His Talmud is driving him. He's driving a little too fast for the police officer who stopped him, and he wants to give him a ticket. License and registration, please. He gives him the license and he gives him the registration. This Talmud is very nervous, kind of a new driver, and the last thing that he wants is to get a ticket. The Mordechai Druk tries to calm his Talmud down, and he says, it's all Boire Oilam. It's all Boire Oilam. It's all from Boire Oilam. The police officer is standing right next to the car, and he hears them whispering, and in Yiddish. So the police officer gets very, very upset, He says, what are you guys saying about me? What are you guys saying about me? And you're using Yiddish. What are you saying about me? So the Talmud, the driver, says, my rabbi is saying that it's all from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If I'm supposed to get a ticket, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who decides. He's the only one who makes the decision. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this got the police officer furious. HaKadosh Baruch Hu? HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I'm the one who makes the decisions. Said, oh no. My rabbi is saying, everything that happens, it's only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to have a ticket, it's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wills it. It's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He makes the decisions. And the officer's all red. He says, it's not HaKadosh Baruch Hu who makes the decisions. I make the decisions. And he takes the license, he takes the registration, throws it into the car, says, drive away from here. I made the decisions. Who makes the decisions? Khamenei, Trump, Netanyahu, the media? En oid milvadoi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes decisions. Don't give too much, don't attribute the success or the failure or anything that happened to anyone but HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Last week we spoke about the Korach HaTorah and the importance of revamping our learning, adding a little more, learning a little more, b'dveikus, be'iyun, with concentration. There's a remarkable ma'aseh everybody knows in Bab Metzia Pei Daled Amud Aleph. Rabbi Yochanan is bathing the Jordan River. Resh Lakish is also there. This is Resh Lakish before he became a Baal Tshuva. And he looks at Rabbi Yochanan and says, wow, you're so handsome. Your beauty should be for women. He jumped, he leaped from one side of the river to the other to see Rabbi Yochanan from up close and personal. And Rabbi Yochanan was so impressed with his skill, with his power, he was able to jump from one side of the river to the others. Wow, you are so strong. Your strength you should use for Torah. And if you think I'm good looking, wait till you see my sister. And you know what? If you become a Baal Tshuva and you dedicate yourself to Torah, I will give you my sister. You can marry her. He says, really? I'm in. The Gemara says Resh Lakish wanted to turn around now and to jump back to take his clothes, and he wasn't able to. Tashash koichoy. He lost the ability. His strength was weakened. Why Chazal use this language, tashash koichoy? Because in Sanhedrin Chavav Amud Beis, Chazal say, Lama nikra shma tushia. Why is that the Torah called tushia? Shemateshes koicho shel adam. The Torah weakens one's strength. How is this possible? We have Beferish Psukim against this. Pasuk in Mishlei says, Rafaus tihel sarecha v'shikui la'atzmosecha. The Torah heals you. Another pasuk in Mishlei, Ki chayim hem lemotzehem ulechol besaro marpe. The Torah heals you. Chazal say in Eruvin Nun Daled, Hachash beroishoy, Hachash bechol gufoy. Have a headache. Your whole body is aching. What should you do? Yes, like the Torah will heal you. The Torah gives chayim. So what do you mean it weakens you? The opposite, it heals you and gives you strength. The Pardes Yosef says, before a person learns Torah, he is all about it's me. I'm so smart, I'm so successful, look at what I'm able to achieve. Once he starts learning Torah, he understands it's not about him, it's about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Torah weakens strength. What strength? The strength of koichi ve'otzem yadi. He no longer will say, koichi, it's about me. He will say it's about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Many times, those who don't learn Torah want to show their superiority over others. Look how strong I am. Look how successful I am. But once a person starts learning Torah, it's mateshes koicho shel adam. It weakens that koyach. He has no interest in showing others and showing off. Look how great and strong I am. In that respect, it mateshes koicho shel adam. It weakens one's strength. If a soldier doesn't really believe in the cause, you don't want him fighting for you. Mimele, when Resh Lakish doesn't really believe now in the hevlei ha'olam hazeh, the nonsense that the world has to offer, he doesn't have the koyach to jump from one side to the other because it's not interesting anymore. You see youngsters, many times they'll do crazy things. They're willing to take all kinds of adventures. Once they get married and have some kids, I'm not doing that anymore. Why not? I have what to lose. When you realize you have what to lose, you don't take risks so easily. When Rish Lakish saw, and when all of us see, that every word of Torah is a diamond, an eternal diamond that we carry with us, we have what to lose. And therefore we don't want to take crazy risks because we have what to lose. One more minute that I'm spending with Torah is eternity. Who would want to lose it by doing crazy things? I used to jump from one side of the river, says Rish Lakish, but why would I want to do that now? And if it doesn't work today, it could be that it's not going to work. Until now, I can care less. But now I have what to lose. Now I'm connected to Torah, and that weakens my strength or my craziness to exhibit my strength. I have my strength. Physically, I'm stable. I'm the same. But I don't want to use it in that manner because now I really understand what's important in life. And in that respect, it weakens my koyach. We should, Mitzvah Hashem, have the understanding to weaken our physical strength, not to attribute our success. What happened here this week? Wow. Has nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with the army, the strategy. It's because the Kodesh Baruch Hu wills it. Mistam, because all of you said Tehilim and learned Torah, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, this is great, I love it. We get close to Ribbon Shalom, so the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to give you success. Tomorrow shall issue this. We're all going to sing. Mizmor LeDavid, Hashem ro'i lo yechesar. Literally means, Hashem ro'i, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is my shepherd. I will not lack anything. But some explain not like that. Hashem ro'i, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is my shepherd. When was the last time that you saw a sheep saying, I wonder if we're going to have lunch today? Where are we sleeping tonight?
Say it all the time. Ma.
Mama says, thank you. That's what she says in its language. The sheep is not worried. I have my shepherd. We say, Hashem Roi, we understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu is our shepherd, but then we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, may it be, Loi Echsar, I should never be lacking this understanding and this hergesh, this feeling that you are my shepherd. I know I'm not going to lack anything. Hashem Roi Lo Echsar, I know that. But the fact that you are my Roi, you are my shepherd, that is something I always want to recognize. I always want to feel that you are my shepherd. Lo Echsar, that feeling. Similarly, every single morning we say, Ele barechev ve'ele basusim. These people come with their scuds, and these people may come with nuclear, and these people may come with va'anachnu. B'shem Hashem Elokeinu nazkir. Oh, wait a second. If you look in the Tehilim, after the word va'anachnu, there's a pause. There's a line there. It says, whoop, pause, break. Why is there a break there? It should be, Ele, those, they come with their tanks, and they come with their jets and whatever it is that they come to fight us. V'anachnu, we come with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, v'anachnu b'shem Hashem Elokeinu nazkir, but it doesn't say that in Tehilim. It forces you to stop. Did you see that today, this morning in the Siddur? V'anachnu, pause. Why a pause? Some explain. Sometimes we say, yes, it is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but also us. Also us. We're very successful. We had great plans. And we executed them. Gewaldig. V'anachnu b'shem Hashem. We and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shutfus, partnership. No. Eile barechev ve'ele basusim. They have their plans. V'anachnu, and we, pause, we realize it's only because of Hashem Elokeinu nazkir. And that's the feeling that we should have. Hashem ish milchamos. Hashem is the only one that conducts the wars. He doesn't need partners. He doesn't have partners. A guy once came to the Rebbe of Bris Kirov. And he saw that the Bris Kirov is sitting around the table with his wife and all the children, and they're saying Tehilim with tears in their eyes. So he realized something really bad must have happened. He felt terrible because he had no idea. And they're crying and saying Tehilim, everybody around the table. So he says to the Bris Kirov, Rebbe, is everything okay? What happened? And the Bris Kirov looks at him. You didn't hear what happened? No. You didn't hear what happened? No. You really didn't hear what happened? He says, no, Rebbe, I didn't. And he felt terrible. And the Bris Kirov says to him, you know why you didn't hear what happened? Because we're sitting here and saying Tehilim. Nothing happened because we're sitting here and saying Tehilim. That is how we're supposed to be saying Tehilim. Nothing happened. That's why you didn't hear about it, because we're sitting saying Tehilim. We've been saying Tehilim for a year and a half. But sometimes maybe we go into autopilot mode and we say, we're saying Tehilim, check mark. Been there, done that. When you're saying Tehilim like the Bris Kerov says Tehilim, nothing will happen. There's not going to be any news. Nothing to share because we say Tehilim like we're supposed to sing Tehilim. Reb Chizkiyahu Yosef Karelstein, the son of Reb Reuven Karelstein, says that when he was in yeshiva, in the Ponevezh yeshiva, Tafshin Nun Aleph, 44 years ago, when Saddam Hussein, Yamach Shemo V'Zichro, decided to send us some aerial souvenirs, known as scuds, there was such fright in Eretz Yisrael. He had a chavusa, a guy from Switzerland. And this guy, when the war started, was very nervous, and he says, what do you think? Should I go back to Switzerland, back home? And he says to him, that's not a shayla for me. Go ask the Rosh Yeshiva. So he did. He went to Rav Shach. Rebbe, should I go back home? I'm nervous. Rav Shach says, you don't leave. Sit and learn Torah, that protects you. Sit and learn. He did. After a week, he comes back to his chavusa. He said, listen, my mother called me. She says, it's been a week. She can't sleep. She can't sleep for a week already. What should I do? Do you think I should go back home? He says, that's not a shayla for me. It's a shayla for a shiva, especially after he told you no last week. Go ask him. So he goes to Rav Shach. Rebbe, my mother can't sleep at nights. It's already a week. She doesn't sleep. She's so nervous. What should I do? Your mother can't sleep? Go on the next plane, go back home. He did. The war was about 3.5 weeks. It ended on Purim, Tafshin Nun Aleph, and this guy's a serious guy. He comes back to the yeshiva. He comes back to Rav Shach and he says, Rebbe, can I ask you a question? Yeah? You know, when I was in Switzerland, my learning was so geschmack, I was able to concentrate. I wasn't able to concentrate when I was here. Look, I even wrote Chidush Torah, and he shows him what he wrote. I was able to daven with kavana. It was so much better. When I was here, it was very difficult for me. I told you I was nervous. So why is it, initially you told me straight. A week later you told me, no, go. Go to the next plane. Rav Shach told him, when you told me that you're nervous, I told you stay here. Sit and learn, you don't leave Torah. When you told me that your mother is afraid that she can't sleep at night, you can't be at tzaddik on the account of somebody else, account of your mother. So I told you to go back home. But you should know, you daven much better over there, and you learn much better over there. But you lost out. Because every time there was a siren here, the kirvas Elokim that we felt when we were here, that is something you will never be able to get. You're right. Your learning and davening was better there. But it's all about kirvas Elokim, which we got, and you will never be able to replicate that. We don't want wars. But the last 2 weeks, when we had those sirens, and we heard the news, the kirvas Elokim that we all felt, Mirza Hashem, we should take this with us. Stay on that high when we said those Tehilim in the Mamad, in Shul, wherever we were. We got to take that kirvas Elokim and make this part of what we are. We don't have to wait, Chalila, for a siren. Here, the air makes you wiser. You're able to understand what it's all about. Kirvas Elokim, Mitzvah Hashem. Just because of that kirvas Elokim that we felt, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mitzvah Hashem, Berachamav HaMerubim, Yishlach Lanu, Mashiach Tzidkenu, Beis Tifartenu, Bekarov B'Yameinu, V'Noimar Omein. Acheinu kol Beis Yisrael Nesunim B'Tzara U'Vashivya. Ha'oim Dimen B'Yam U'Ven B'Yabasha, Ha'makom Yirachem Aleihem. יוציאם מצער לרווח ומאפילו לאויר המשיר לגאולה. אשתו בעגולו ובזמן קורי ונאמר אומי.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.